see white lies dancing between the lines. She's an atheist. Carousels in her mind, spinning all in her eyes. She's an atheist.
Hello and welcome to Digital Freethought Radio Hour on WOZO Radio 103.9 LPFM right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Today is Sunday, November 1st, 2020. I'm Larry Rhodes, or Doubter5, and as usual, we have our co-host Wombat on the phone with us today. Hello, Wombat.
God bless the USA.
All right. Not exactly what I would expect to hear on an atheist show, but cool. And our guests today are Doubtfire. How are you?
Hello, hello.
I guess I should say is Doubtfire.
Right.
But it's not quantity, it's quality. That's right.
Absolutely.
Digital Freethought Radio Hour is a talk radio show about atheism, free thought, rational thought, humanism, and the sciences. And conversely, we'll also talk about religion, religious faiths, gods, holy books, and superstition. And if you get the feeling you're the only non-believer in Knoxville, well, you're just not. There are several atheist, free-thinking, and rationalist groups that exist right here in Knoxville, and we'll be telling you how you can connect with them right after the mid-show break. Also, did you know that there's a streaming atheist call-in video show broadcasting here in Knoxville and has been for over 10 years? Did you know that one, Bet?
You keep asking me and you never tell me anything about it, but I did finally look it up, and I was really happy all the way until season 8.
You did?
All the way until season 8, because then it's like, man, you're focusing less on the dragons, then the two dragons die, and then it's like the Night King comes out of nowhere and Arya Stark kills the Night King in like one scene. I'm like, this makes no sense. Game of Thrones, a little. I can't rewatch it if I know the last season so bad. I tried. I'll give it like a 7 out of 10.
Well, cool. But I hope you find our actual show and give it 10 out of 10. But we'll tell you how you can right after the mid-show break. What do you have for us today, Wombat? What if you're right or wrong?
Yeah, it's one of the things I always stress never to say in a SE conversation is, what if you're wrong? Only because it's such a minefield for someone to consider being wrong in a conversation. You trigger every ego and defensive response. Plus, people don't like to hear someone be skeptical of them and then hear the word wrong. And so I always like to stress on like, well, how do we know if you're right? But it is an important question to know, how do you know you're wrong? Because that
do you know how many times I've been asked that question in my Ask an Atheist booth?
No, really?
My Ask an Atheist table? It's like the first thing to sit down. What if you're wrong?
Yeah. Well, I'm not speaking for other people. I'm talking for people who are actually trying to have good conversations with people, not people trained who never have conversations with atheists in the first place. I know, right? But still, I would say it is an important thing to know if you're wrong, because just because we are atheists doesn't mean that we're right about everything. And so I thought it might be mighty good for us to just go over times when we were confident about something. Maybe it's religious, maybe it's not religious, and we have the opportunity to think, why did I believe that? Should I keep believing that? Actually, I have a better reason to not believe it. I'm not going to believe that anymore. And that is a cool thing. Before we begin, I'd like to go around and just see how everyone's doing, because I always like to do that. Larry, how you doing? What's going on with you?
I'm doing well for an old guy. Staying in, staying safe, playing a lot of computer games. But yeah, I'm doing fine.
Nice. Scott, Doubtfire, how you been? It's been a whole week, man.
Yeah, been a whole week, man. Yeah, it's been going pretty good. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, been doing really good, man. Can't complain.
Dude, I saw you have this really lengthy conversation about scrupulosity or SE on the YouTube channel. Like, what was going on there?
Yeah, so somebody was asking, I think it was, I'm not sure who it was actually, but
Me DNA, I think.
Yeah, Me DNA, and yeah, if I can remember the conversation. Of course, I just got up, so I'm trying to recall. I got the spider webs in my head. So.
It's okay. So looking back at it, it's like Me DNA asked us, "Hey, I hope you become a Muslim," and Dada's Trading Room is just, and myself are like, "Hey, I'm open to it as long as Allah has a good reason to convince me." And I have family members that are Muslim too, so it's like, okay, well, it's up to them. He has a direct road of communication to convince me of it, and so it's it's rare to have a person tell us to be religious on our YouTube channels, but you took them up and asked them like, well, what reasons do you need to be a Muslim? And I would like to know your idea of like, what was your thought process in going through that conversation? Maybe we can tackle it in the second half of the show.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah?
So it was, what good reasons does an unbeliever have to be a Muslim? And I asked this question to Christians too.
Very, very cool. Man, I totally want to get into that. We're definitely going into that. Eric, Dr. Green, it's good to see you. Hey, I love that cover of Bad Religion that you've put on. We're going to play it in the half of this show. I think it's cool that you still find a way to communicate with friends and make music together, even though you're far apart. How important is that for you?
Man, it's super important, and I'm trying to do more of it because I'm going stir crazy. I don't know about you guys.
I am too. I can tell you my thing that I've done is I got a pair of rollerblades. I think that's like a fun thing that I can do by myself and develop a new skill. There's no ice rinks around here. There is one in Kentucky that I lived right next to. But here, where I'm at in Tennessee, there aren't any aside from Nashville. And I'm learning how to skate. It's real fun. The fun thing is I have really big feet. I have size 15 feet. They don't make rollerblades my size.
Wow.
That's a response I get all the time.
I thought my feet were large at 12.
So I found a pair of 13 roller skates that have like a breathable fabric top. That even on Amazon reviews, people are like, I'm a size 14 and these fit perfectly because the fabric stretches and it's already naturally a large fit because it's a rollerblade to make them usually bigger than normal. And so I got those 13s, I put them on and it fit like a glove. And so like I am out, I can get down to across the block, just did some like a nice little hour stroll on the skates today. I feel good. It makes me feel like a kid again. Yeah, and I can keep myself distant away from people. And if anyone gets too close, I have the speed to get away. It's like, hey, back up.
Listen to David Cross's bit about Gabriel who wants to go rollerblading the day after 9/11. It's really, it's really funny.
Okay, I'm totally going to it. So yeah, topic of the show today is what if you're wrong? What were times when we thought we were right as atheists that we realized that we're wrong? Because just because you're an atheist doesn't mean you're right about everything. And I thought probably the first thing that I'd like to go into for me is probably a subject that we talked on last week, where we were discussing morality. Scott Doubtfire brought up the idea of like, hey, what does it mean to be moral? And we were talking about like, well, I have the impression that it's a system. It's not just a list of commandments that you're being obedient to. And Larry even said morality is not obedience. I didn't always used to think that. Even when I was in college, I used to think to be moral is very, very obvious and clear because you just have to follow what the Bible tells you. And there's a nice 10 set of rules there. They're numbered and it's easy to go. And as long as you do that, you're a moral person because you get your morals from the Bible. And that's what it means to be moral.
Sure.
And I was very, very confident that that was true. Literally all the way up into like my second year undergraduate. And it wasn't until I went into class and we had an ethics course. And it was just an issue of like, how do you know what actions you should take and how your actions have consequences on other people? How do you know which actions are the best to do? And I realized that just following the 10 commandments wasn't enough to answer the questions that he was giving me. And I had to think about like, oh, well, in this specific example, maybe I shouldn't kick a grandma or maybe I should be able to take this bread to feed my family. Like maybe these are wrong. And in the process of thinking, I realized, it's not just a list of rules. It's a process of thinking that determines whether or not you're making a moral choice or not.
Right.
Doubter 5, what do you think about morality is not obedience? Did you have any inclination of that? I don't know if you were ever Christian. But like, did you think in the same way of like, hey, as long as I have these rules, I'm moral?
Of course, that was back when I was very young. But I mean, I didn't discover that there were no gods until I was in college, which was it was after I was in the Navy. So I didn't start college till I was 22, 23. But of course, I equated morality in like early teens with the Bible or with the 10 Commandments. But you got to think that there are a lot of things nowadays, new subjects that come up that aren't covered, like stem cell research, And the religious have come down hard on that, especially even the Pope said we shouldn't go there. We shouldn't study the origins of the universe because, that's the domain of God. There are a lot of things that aren't covered by the Bible, but the religious folks seem to think that it is in a slanted way, in a sideways way, it's covered. Like abortion is not covered in the Bible, but thou shalt not kill is covered in the Bible. So they jump on that and say that covers abortion, but that's not really.
So how did
you
figure it out? How did you realize that the Bible wasn't enough? How did you make that recognition?
Well, just reading a lot, talking to a lot of different people, right? I realized that obedience is not morality. Morality is learning to know or learning to do the right thing in a certain situation. Doing one thing in one situation does not mean it's moral in another situation. Like murder, of course, is bad. But if you're in a war and you're defending your home, or if somebody is breaking into your home and threatening your family, that, of course, is not murder, but it's still killing somebody. Sure. And sometimes it's necessary, not only moral, but necessary. And other times it's deeply immoral. So it's conditional. It depends on the situation.
Yeah, sometimes it could even be immoral to let someone keep living, even if they want to die, like in a situation like that.
Good point.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Boudreaux,
forcing someone to.
Yeah, against their consent. Boudreaux, I'd like to throw the question out at you. Just the quick, do you think morality did you ever have a time where you thought morality was like a list of rules? And then if you'd like to follow up on, I'd like to get Doubtfire's idea on like the same question, but as a follow-up, do you have a time in your life where you knew you were wrong, and how did you come about realizing that and rectifying that? But on morality being obedience, what's your idea on that?
Yeah, so I guess when I was young, I was spoon-fed, the Bible, or it was go to church, and you heard, basically what is a deontological morality, right? Where basically it's a list of rules.
Yep.
And so yeah, I think I was just assumed that was the case. I really never put it to thought or articulated it to myself until I started reading more and listening to philosophers talk about consequentialism versus this book of rules. So yeah, I never took a philosophy class in college, which is kind of a regret of mine. I would have enjoyed it, I think. But
yeah, I think you would have, absolutely.
Yeah,
if you had a good teacher too. Yeah, absolutely.
But so yeah, I guess I just, I don't know, kind of fell away over time. And the examples you bring up make perfect sense. I mean, they didn't know about abortion, 4,000 years ago. So yeah. I mean, why would that be written in? And had they known about abortion, it might have been in one of the commandments. Or if a baby's born with a horrible disease and they're going to live, 3 weeks in pain and agony, maybe it's okay and justifiable to end its like it gets gray.
No, there's definitely validity there. Like you never want to go into it with such a rigid framework of what's right and wrong that you're beginning to like hurt people through your lack of flexibility. Mm-hmm. I would say this: they also didn't know about germs when they wrote the Bible. Even Charles Darwin didn't know about germs. So like you can see that in the whole like, hey, don't eat pork, you will die. It's like if you cook it, it's okay. Actually, it's like, no. It's really bad. Bacon's bad. It's like, bacon's bad. I don't believe you. This is America. Excuse me, Scar. Yeah.
Let me think about your other question while Doubtfire goes, though.
If I know Scott well, you're going to have plenty of time to think. I'm just playing with you, man. I'm just playing with you.
Yeah.
That's a rub on both of us because we're both long talkers. But Doubtfire, floor is yours. Like, what do you think about morality and obedience? How did you come about learning that it wasn't the same thing? And like, what's your personal story there? Like, how'd that happen for you?
Out of the same way that I guess it's the same thing. Like I thought that God was the foundation of morality, and His Word was the revelation of God. So, the only way I could know if something was moral or immoral or ethical was if you believe in God. Because otherwise there's no grounding for morality. If there's no absolute immutable thing, then there's nothing to reference it to. And so then, I just kind of went along with everything I knew about the Bible, like how he commanded infanticide and condoned slavery and a lot of other questionable things. But then, once I started losing the fear and losing the belief in the whole thing, then all that stuff kind of fell away naturally. And then I kind of realized, we make our moral, people make morality. That's why morality is different in different cultures. So it's kind of subjective and relative to cultures and everything like that. And I used to hate that idea of moral relativism and subjectivity, because I felt like if it's just a matter of opinion, then everybody's just going to go and do whatever they want to do. But I realize it's not about that at all. That's just a big lie.
So I want to talk about two things, because you brought up two really amazing points. One is, man, I really want to get into cultural relativism with you. But the carrot and stick idea of like, once I lost my fear, that's when clarity began to come with morality. And it's like there's such a carrot and a stick mentality when you're in a faith, where it's like, you'll get this carrot, but if you don't want this carrot, you'll get the stick. So what do you want? It's like, obviously I'll take the carrot. But when you realize the stick isn't even there, you're like, I don't like carrots. I don't want this carrot anymore. Could you talk about like how you came over your fears? I imagine that was a very long process. It's not something you can just snap your fingers, but like.
Oh yeah. Well, being self-aware, like the scrupulosity, like we talked about last week. And when I finally started dealing with that, that's when it kind of triggered me, like, wait a minute, I'm kind of acting unhealthy mentally.
Yeah.
And then I was able to kind of open the door to other suggestions. Like I had an atheist guy that I worked with way back when I was working at the state police. And he was an atheist, and he was like a card carrying atheist. So we and him would go at it like for years. And then finally I opened my mind. I was like, wait a minute, and I was like, talk to me, man. I'm all ears now. I've like my defenses, and he's kind of explained things. So it made sense to me. And after that, I was a hardcore atheist.
Look at that.
And
it's important to let people know. Yeah. If you are an atheist, that's perfect story of why you should be, open about it, because you have friends that just need someone to reach out to. Because if you didn't have that friend to reach out to, you'd probably still be in the truth even today, possibly even.
Yeah.
One last point before we get to Eric's, because I want to know Eric's how he's wrong, but like, just kidding. Eric's never wrong, but I'm wondering, like, Doubtfire, the idea of cultural relativism as I've heard that argument myself. I have been in the same shoes where it's like, either God's right and there's this one firm right and wrong thing, or it's all just anyone's opinions, and who's to say who when you can murder and when you can't murder, because there's no authority to tell me anything. And it took me a while to realize that I didn't need an authority for me to still have an objective basis for knowing what's right and wrong. And just because there's no God in my moral outlook doesn't mean that I have objective principles, or at least a very firm understanding of like, hey, my actions have consequences on people. I'm going to do good things so good things can happen, and avoid bad things so bad things don't happen. And we all mutually benefit from that. Could you talk about your process for understanding, like, hey, cultural relativism isn't just the only option if I don't have my God belief?
Who's the question to?
That's right. Doubtfire, Scott, could you talk about like the idea of like, hey, just because I don't believe in God doesn't mean cultural relativism is the only thing on the plate?
Oh yeah. So it kind of goes back to understanding sticks and carrots, like you were just mentioning, that's divine command theory. That you're appealing to an authority to tell you what's right and wrong. And if you were to take that position, then you could say Hitler was right because they used that same argument, I think, in some big decision way back after World War II about that. They're like, look, morals are relative and subjective, and what we did was follow orders. They kind of appealed to that, and that didn't fly because and so studying like biology and studying human evolution and and that we are a product of nature, and we are nature, by the way. We're not
Absolutely.
we're not separate from nature. We're part of the world, and so everything we are kind of derives from it. So empathy and what we call ethics is kind of derivative from our nature, our internal nature. And that's why we get this stuff. And it's why we feel such a strong leaning towards not murdering people, not stealing. We're social animals.
Yep.
So we have to get together and work together. We share space with each other. So it's naturally inborn in us, I think. And then our moral codes kind of come out of that.
Yeah.
And then so I think at the end of the day, it seems to me that morality is kind of a bit of both nature and nurture, because of that. And
yeah, like we are products of evolution. We are naturally a social species. We're going to come up with rules that explain why we need to be social with each other. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, if not, we won't be around anymore. And the community that says we can kill anyone whenever we want won't survive till the next generation. So like we are very much products of our environment, and we nurture ourselves with rules that we can explicitly tell the next generation coming up. Hopefully we can improve those rules. Bujo, you're now on the spot. He's had some solid time to think about a time when he's been wrong.
Yeah. So the question you'd asked, the second part was, have I ever realized I did something wrong? And is that the effect of it? And I couldn't come up with anything super. No, I couldn't come up with anything very big, so to say. But I do remember.
Get your wife in here. Give me in here. I'm sure either one of those will tell.
I'm sure there's something out there.
Oh, I'm sure.
I remember something kind of that really sticks in my mind. I think I even I may have shared it on this show a time before, but it involved airplanes. And I remember airplanes as being one of the last shreds of fears I had with religion. And that was the bit about, reading a book by Richard Dawkins on an airplane with the atheist in the title. It gave me a little bit of fear to do that. It's like, oh man, here I am kind of, giving God the middle finger on an airplane, and the whole thing could go down. And I remember that was like the last thing that fell away from me. When I was finally like, wait a second, I can read whatever I want, so surely someone's reading a Bible on this plane. So, but the point is there was a steward that came by and told me to shut off my iPad. And iPads are pretty brand new. The whole, cover, when you close the cover, it turns off the screen. And I was like, oh, okay. And I closed the cover because I didn't want to shut it down yet. And he's like, you need to shut it down, not just close the cover. I remember I was like, I did. And then I had my finger on the power button, like just now trying to shut it down. And, he walked away and whatever. And I caught him later and I was like, hey man, I've been traveling all day. I'm in a bed. I know you're busy. You deal with jerks like me all the time. I apologize. I did that. This thing's new and I'm, still dealing with how to work it. And you told me to shut it down. I should shut it down and, buckle my seatbelt. So I don't know if that close to answers your question.
No, absolutely. That's right. Because listen, if you could have had the mindset of like, I was a jerk, I'm going to go home and pray to God for the thing that I was a jerk to. But it sounded like you actually made an effort to, in my opinion, show some character and like humble yourself to a person that you wronged and make it right with the person that you made the offense to. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think that's something that isn't just a good thing, but it's a necessary thing. And if you have like a God belief where it's like, hey, my best friend's God, he's the creator of the universe, I'll make it up with him and it'll trickle down. But you're like, no, I'm going to make this right now. I was wrong then, I'm going to make it right. And I think that's a perfect story. Just the human empathy approach. Absolutely. Larry, what do you think?
Larry 5.
We got Doubtfire and Doubter 5 on the same show. It's throwing me off. Yeah. We just have to go first names, but
no, I guess the only thing that comes to mind was not only when I found out that that religion was wrong. I was wrong about religion when I was growing up and stuff, but the entire supernatural package. There's no evidence. There's just as much no evidence for ghosts or anything else like werewolves or Dracula or anything, as there's not evidence for God. So I had to leave all of that package behind, even my own soul, or the souls of people that I previously had thought were in heaven, things like that. You know, just you had to let go, say goodbye, and all that. But you know, it's one of those things that you live, you learn, you go on, and you put it behind you, and then you don't think about it too much more after that point. But you know, I was wrong.
Can I throw something out?
Sure.
Werewolves, it seems like, and I'm using these terms as nicely as I can.
You're gonna defend werewolves?
No, but I'm saying white people monsters or white people supernatural things tend to be just cool things that chase you.
Oh, yeah.
That seems to be the gamut of like, so what's a werewolf?
Yeah.
Oh, it's this awesome guy who has a lot of muscles and he turns into a dog. It's like, dogs are awesome. Yeah, but he chases you. I'm like, okay, that's cool. What's a vampire? It's like a guy, but it's like Batman, but it's even cooler because it's like,
Or zombies.
And he's like, oh, zombies? I don't know what it is. It's like you die, but you come back to life, which is awesome because dying
chase you.
sucks. And then they chase you. It's like, oh, okay. Well,
That's
what's
funny.
something that doesn't do? It's like they all do the same thing.
If they didn't chase you, then they wouldn't be scary, would they? Oh, there's a werewolf over there in the corner. Cool.
My mom's from St. Thomas, so we grew up with the Haitian level of monsters. We had witch doctors, we had voodoo, we had mukujumbis. I don't know if you guys know that, but like straight up, like, hey, you walked across my legs, that means I'm going to stop growing, and I'm only 11 years old. You never heard about that? Okay, all right. Well, there are things, supernatural things called mokujumbis, which is like, if you curses, like if you step on a mother's crack, you'll break your mother's back. But
sure.
It's like the Haitian version of that. And there was like the idea of Johnny Bread Man, which is like, hey, if you eat too much food, Johnny Bread Man's going to keep pushing out in your stomach and you will blow up from the inside out. It's not being chased by a cool dude anymore. It's just horrible body horror and torture. And so it makes sure that you're a good kid, that you like watch where you're walking, you don't eat too much food, and you don't walk over people's legs. But yeah, we could have borrowed some from like just the Western culture, because I would love to be chased by a cool looking bat person. Anyway, that is a random aside.
You guys do know why vampires are strictly in Europe and haven't taken over any stories down in Africa, right?
Fill me in.
Well, the obviously if the holy water is dangerous to vampires. Well, they bless the rains down in Africa.
Hey, that's good enough for me. Why don't we take ourselves out on a half-hour break? I can't top that, Larry.
Have to remember that. Okay, this is the Digital Freethought Radio Hour on WOZO Radio 103.9 LPFM here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We'll be right back after this short break.
To the curious, the inquisitive, the seekers of knowledge, to the ones who just want to know about life, about the universe, about yourself. Not cute questions, big questions, ones that matter. To the rebels, the artists, the free thinkers, and the innovators who care less about labels and more about truth, who believe nonconformity is more than a bumper sticker, that knowledge is more than words on a page. You're young, you're old, you're powerful beyond measure, and the fuel of that power is not magic or mysticism, but knowledge. The things you see, the things you feel, the things you know to be true. Sure, some will doubt you. Let them. Dare to think for yourself, to look for yourself, to make up your own mind. Because in the eternal debate for answers, the one thing that's true is the power of logic.
Hello and welcome back to the second half of the Digital Freethought Radio Hour. I'm Doubter 5 and we're on WOZO Radio 103.9 LPFM here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Today's November 1st, 2020. Let's talk about the atheist and free-thinking groups that you can join right here in Knoxville. First, there's the Atheist Society of Knoxville. ASK was founded in 2002. We're in our 18th year. ASK has over 1,000 members, and you can find us online at knoxvilleatheist.org, or you can just Google Knoxville Atheist and it'll take you to us. By the way, if you don't live in Knoxville, you should still go to meetup.com and search for an atheist group in your town. Don't find one? Start one. That's right. Another large free-thinking group in Knoxville, the Rationalists of East Tennessee, RET, can be found at rationalist.org. Click on that and then go to their upcoming events to find out what they're up to. Earlier in the show, we said we talked about the Knoxville Atheist Call-In TV show. Wombat, pay attention.
I'm taking notes. Why you say I don't? I pay very close attention to it. What were you saying? I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
It's you go to YouTube and type in Freethinkers United Coalition of Knoxville, and you'll find our YouTube streaming version of the Atheist Call-In show. However, we do have 10 years of archives of our regular TV show that was on the air. You'd have to search for Freethinkers. I'm sorry, it's Freethought Forum Knoxville. And you should find a whole bunch of episodes of those. We were actually streaming on public access TV. Also, if you're interested in getting involved with the TV or the radio show, come to an ASK meetup, RET meeting, or talk to us on our Facebook pages, and you could be our next co-host or guest. With us today on the show, we have our usual co-host, which is Wombat.
And I'm proud to be an American.
Right. And we have Dotfire and Boudreaux. Welcome. And what are we talking about now?
So we were just covering the philosophical principles of Hathaway, the 1990s philosopher. He made a quote that said, "What is love? Oh baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more. What is love? Oh baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more." Now this is the most important part. Now I don't know why you're not fair. I give you my love, but you don't care. What is the sign and what is wrong? Give me a sign. What is love? What is love?
Where is love?
The
Where's
love.
The love from our listeners.
There.
That's right.
Combining some 90s hits there. So we got the love from our listeners. Data's Trading. We had 21 comments on last week's show. I don't think we have enough time to go through them all. But I would say who got here first was Data's Trading Room. Thank you so much for your quality comments, Datas. You've always been great. And here is his comment on last week's topic, which was, what the heck is scrupulosity? And we're talking about like the compulsion, almost like an OCD level of constantly praying or constantly following the rite of a particular religion. And how do we get out of it? And so Data's Trading Room said, yeah, that's a pretty heavy topic. I don't know what to say, but I guess I was a victim of this too. I used to worry about all those clothes that I was close to and kept asking some God to watch for them. I didn't even believe in the God of the Bible, yet I still prayed. Realizing that I'm an atheist actually really helped me get out of this. Shout outs to AXP, Matt Dillahunty, and guys like you who helped me in this realization. Thank you. And I said, thank you very much, Datas. That's a very good comment. Thank you guys. Yeah, but I really thought it was awesome where he said, hey, I didn't even believe in the God in the Bible yet, and I was still praying almost compulsively. And it's like, you have this part of your, I would say, spirit, or like this need to have a spiritual fulfillment in your body. And God fills that hole perfectly. It's just this ambiguous little glue that fills in all the gaps. But when you don't have that anymore, you have something called, I like to call a God hole. And people will fill that in with anything when they don't have it, like skydiving, psychedelic music, flipping homes, whatever meditation. Yeah, whatever works, right? And I think in my God hole is probably just video games, really bad food, good conversation, but there's definitely a God hole there. And it used to still be praying. Like I took out the God hole and I need to pray, or I need to have like
that's a habit. It takes a while to break habits.
Absolutely.
And fears.
And it's scary to have that silence for a while, just being like, hey, I'm having a hard time finding my keys, or I'm having a bad time. I don't know if my mom's going to be healthy, or I'm about to get in a car accident. Don't pray myself out of the situation. Just be aware of where the dangers are, find my keys, rationalize myself so I can move forward. It takes a long time to get that figured out. Bujo, what do you think? You're nodding your head. Have you?
Yeah, I think we talked about the car. Well, I'm in highway safety, so I think about that a lot. But I've been in situations where I'm driving and it's raining really heavily, and I start thinking about the crash statistics in my head, and you know, and you can go to fear pretty fast. But then what I often do is I go, you know, I'm sober, I'm awake, I'm paying attention, I'm not distracted, and I start going through like, what are the things that cause crashes? You know, usually human error. It's usually, you know, excessive speeds or something like that. So I, you know, grab the steering wheel a little tighter. I pay attention, double check. You know what I mean? So yeah, I go to rational. I go immediately to rational instead of looking upwards and maybe even making things worse.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been pulled over a lot of times in Kentucky. I would say I was only there for about a year and a couple of months, and I got pulled over there was a period where I got pulled over roughly 8 times in one calendar year, 11 times total in Kentucky. Never got a single ticket. Got a single ticket. So Black Lives Matter is one thing, but I would also say when I did get pulled over, I was considering like, okay, what are the odds here? I don't drink. I know I was following the speed limit. Maybe I was a mile over or maybe a mile under. Maybe I was driving too slow. I have fog lights on. I got a reflective tape thing on my back of my car. Like, I care about safety. I speak well. I'm wearing my glasses. I'm going to work. I'm in a good situation where if I get asked, if cop comes over and starts asking me questions.
No drugs in the car.
Exactly. I have my license and registrations here. I'll ask for permission before I move. I know I followed YouTube videos for like, hey, if you're a black guy and you get pulled over and you're in the South, this is what you should do. It's like, I know these rules. I can follow these. I can get out of this situation. Okay. And, it's terrifying each time still, but I am glad that, I was able to not go in the panic mode where it's like, oh God, oh Lordy. Oh, there's like, no. What works, what doesn't work. Let's just rationalize our way out of it. And I know SC very well. So like, I can just make sure that I don't escalate the situation and not give anything that this guy could use to make my day a lot longer. Doubtfire, I'm going to throw this out at you. So what we were talking about today is like the compulsion to still feel like you have to do something religious, even when you're not religious. And so Dada Straderman was talking about praying, even though he realized he doesn't believe in a God anymore. Did you have any sort of residual feeling like you had to do something, even when you knew there was no God?
Yeah, this is something I thought about that I practice all the time. This is kind of weird. So I was suffering from heavy anxiety a few years ago, like really bad anxiety. And I wasn't able to calm myself down or do anything for it. Like I think one time I almost fainted at work and they made me leave my job, and it was really bad, and I was really in a bad spot. And so anyways, one day I was listening to the Joe Rogan show. And he had Richard Dawkins on. He was interviewing Richard Dawkins. And I think Joe Rogan had asked him a question. Do you think people who pray, like, where does that come from? Why do people pray to gods that they don't know exist, and this and that? What's your evolutionary explanation for that? And Richard Dawkins started bringing up the placebo effect and the nocebo effect.
Nocebo effect. I like this.
He goes, so what is nocebo? And so Richard Dawkins says, sometimes even if you don't believe that a sugar pill works, like you can purposely take a sugar pill with the intention that it's going to heal you, and you can already know it's a sugar pill, and it'll still take away your anxiety or your pain or whatever like that.
Wow.
And he says this is called the nocebo. It doesn't matter. You can believe it's going to work or not believe it's going to work, and it'll still work if you just go into it with an intention. And I thought, wow, that's kind of weird. So I went and looked it up, and sure enough, it's really a thing. It's called the nocebo effect. So, and Richard Dawkins said, so this is the power of prayer that people talk about. And he says, I would venture to say that even if you didn't believe in God and you prayed to God, it may have some value, some utility for you as far as anxiety and stuff like that. So I took it serious after I did the research. I took it serious because I was in a bad place and I didn't want to go into taking pills or anything like that. I wanted to try something. So I started praying to my own concept of God, which is more like maybe a pantheistic type of thing.
Ooh, I did this.
Yeah. And man, I guarantee you, I promise you, it worked like overnight. My anxiety has been gone ever since.
Wow.
So, yeah, and I find myself now, I don't necessarily pray for things, but just to say to the world, wow, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be participating. I'm glad. I love my experience.
Form of meditation.
Yeah, meditation, and I was working with a guy who was a Zen Buddhist, and he was talking to me about this and kind of trying to help me through this process too. And I was telling him, but I'm an atheist, and he was like, well, look, I'm an atheist too. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in the supernatural, but I'm a Buddhist. I have a spiritual belief, but when I say spiritual, I don't mean it like the Western people say it. I mean, it's I don't believe in crystals and all that. I mean, I have a conscious attitude towards life that makes things better, and I don't get attached to beliefs, and I don't get attached to all this stuff.
I love that. Yeah, that's the stuff I can dial into, because I used to, before COVID hit, I used to do yoga with a bunch of friends once a week, every week. And the teacher was really great at making sure that there were 3 different levels you could always work at. And I remember when I finally moved from level 1 to level 2, and I could do like the second form of like all the crazy stuff she was doing. And there was a point where it's like, I don't feel my body anymore. Like when I'm at level 1, it's like, this is so uncomfortable. I can't wait until the timer goes off. And number 2, it's like, what timer? Like what room? Like I'm just breathing, and it's like, class is over already. Why does my head just feel so
you're in the flow moment? There's a scientific or psychological term called being in the flow. And like I'm a musician, so like when I write music or I'm putting together a track or something like that, time disappears, all my concerns fly away. It's like a form of meditation.
It's just all the stress is gone. There's no me anymore. There's no point of me stressing anymore. And I do feel like, I know I went into there realizing, hey, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in, like woo and all that stuff. But there was just an opportunity to let go of myself doing something. And I appreciated that. So prayer, sugar pills, nocebos, I think they have validity to them. Larry, what do you think?
Oh, I'd like to look into this nocebo thing. I had never heard of it before, but I can see where it would have some effect. Placebo, I would think, would have more effect, but I'll have to check it out and see what it's like. Yeah.
And if anything, it just shows that you had the power to do it, whether now that you know.
It's like putting your mind to something.
Just dedicating yourself.
Setting an attitude.
Eric, I got the next question for you. Here's something that I thought I was wrong about that I realized, or here's something that I thought was true that I realized was not true. And as I was coming into atheist community in general, and just as a backstory, when I moved to Kentucky, you reached out to me. It was like, hey, I saw some of your SE vids and I think it's cool. I actually have a group of atheist buddies. If you'd like to hang out with us, let's do it. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. Because I was looking for a community to hang out with in Kentucky that had similar beliefs. And I was like, nice. I can't wait to check you guys out. And in the back of my mind, I didn't really realize it yet because I had spent some time with Larry and his atheist group. And I knew, I can hang out with any atheist at that table. We could have a conversation. But in my head, I never really saw atheism as like a full multiple state sort of a situation. My idea was like, atheists always agree on everything. Right? No. And it wasn't until I went to the summit for the first time where it's like, we have this thing where we have a bunch of atheists in a room. It's this room that Eric's in right now. And it's just a round table. And we have a topic brought up and we just talk about it. And and we encourage disagreement and we encourage rational talking about why we disagree and the nature of why we disagree. And I'm like, whoa, this is cool. And I'm just sitting in like a fly on the wall, realizing like all these people I've had food with, all these people that I know their names for, they're coming at every topic from completely different angles. And I'm realizing, whoa, atheists disagree on like basically everything. Like even things that I thought we had like a superficial sort of agreement on. There's a Christian in the room who's making more sense than any of you guys. What's going on here? And I probably don't agree with him on almost anything other than that. And he has an iPhone. I don't even want an iPhone. What's going on here? Eric, the idea of like atheists don't agree on anything or really on everything except for just the God belief. You want to touch on that? Anything you want to say?
Yeah. I think it's unique to atheism, I think, in some respects, because we're not grouping together for banding together because of a belief we all agree on. We're grouping together because of something we don't believe in, right? So it's
Right.
almost like the void, the absence. And, I think Christians can kind of band together and they all kind of agree on, I'm sure there's plenty of disagreement going around in their circles too, but at least they can all fall back to, well, we've got this book and we agree on all these things.
Exactly.
We have a lot less we can fall back on. We're kind of like, we all don't believe in this. I think skepticism helps. I would say that, there are probably some statistical comparisons where, majority of atheists are this political leaning or I imagine most atheists are science minded, but it's not true. There are plenty of anti-vaccine atheists, Trump supporting atheists, just
atheists don't want to vaccinate their kids even. Like you're just like, what? You won't vaccinate your kids? Yeah.
Right. So yeah, you get a mix. And I will say, whenever I find out someone is an atheist, I'm almost like relieved, like, oh, we're going to connect on a lot of things. I just assume that. It's usually
absolutely. It is usually true. It is, but it's always weird when it's like, come on, what else? What's barriers getting you to just thinking like me completely? Why can't you just think like me? Because we only agree on one thing.
Right.
And it just means there's one less thing getting in the way of us connecting with each other, but we're still two different people. Doubtfire, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, there's atheists who are like in the political spectrum. They could be progressive liberal types or libertarian types, or not many conservatives, because mainly they kind of believe in Jesus and all this stuff. But I've met a lot of they're out there definitely. But I've met a lot of libertarian conservative types that are atheists, because they don't believe in church and state, being together. And so a lot of them are atheistic. And then, of course, liberal progressives are too. So on that front, and that's a really big part of human nature, is the political something else that divides us. But yeah, other things I would think are more superficial, maybe like what kind of movies you like or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, I've met atheists that don't agree with maybe my political philosophy or whatever.
Sure.
So, but I don't even like letting that divide people up. I get along. I try to get along with everybody.
You can.
Like part of my philosophy is to not get so attached to beliefs. Kind of like my Zen Buddhist friend used to tell me. It really made an impact on me. He said, because it is a form of strife in your life, and it's a form of suffering, as they call it in his tradition, where if you're always attached to tribalism beliefs or religious beliefs or supernatural or whatever the big ones are for people, those can be a source of discomfort and cognitive dissonance and just division among people in society, and it's not a good thing,
Yeah. I think anytime you identify with a label, you should be wary that the more strict that definition becomes, or the more adherent you become to that identity, the more likely you are to discriminate or push out or push yourself into an elitist corner where you're gonna force people in your own community to come up with their own separate labels and just start this vicious fractal circle of people coming up with new words to call themselves. But if you just took a step back and realize, hey, on top of behind these labels on labels on labels and labels, we're just people. Everyone here is an individual. We can make connections if we're willing to work for it. It just requires some respect and some really good candor between all of us. And
in humility, like I wanted to add that too, is that what attracted me to SE in the first place was the fact that it questions your beliefs. Like, it's a method for questioning what you think for certain. And what I've learned in my life just by practicing SE on myself or having people, ask me questions about things is I don't really know a whole lot for certain at all. Like the only thing I really know is that I exist and that I'm experiencing this life. Everything else is kind of an inference to the best, what I think is the best explanation for things, but I don't really know them. And with that kind of protection there, it keeps me from being arrogant and overbearing with people. because I can recognize in myself that I don't know, I don't have all the answers. I'm an atheist, but I'm not always right, you know?
Right. And it's actually a freeing thing to say you don't know. And I realized when I was an atheist for the first time, it's like, I don't know is actually a good thing to say. So like when someone puts you on the spot, I was like, what do you think about the XYZ? It's like, I don't know. It's like, oh, you didn't give me any ammunition for me to follow up. It's like, yeah, but I also don't know. And I would be interested in figuring it out. I just need a good method to get us there.
Absolute
Larry,
certainty is overrated.
I'm going to oh, powerful. How sure are you about that?
I'm absolutely certain.
Oh, he's absolutely certain. Absolute certainty is overrated. I love it. I love it. The idea that, okay, so I want to take a quick step back. I want to give you the opportunity to respond to what we were talking about. I think what I'm trying to like summarize it, and feel free to step in, Larry, anytime, but like the idea of religion being more of a unifying factor versus atheism just being more of a point of agreement, and bifurcations upon bifurcations happen.
Well, sure.
You've been leader of atheist communities left and right. Have you seen that?
I've been leader what?
Of atheist communities left and right all over the place. Have you seen that, like,
corralling
atheists is sort of like herding cats?
When I sit in these atheist booths or asking atheists, and I tell people about the Atheist Society of Knoxville, and that we have dinners and stuff, and they say, well, what do you guys talk about? I mean, they're trying to get some kind of insight into what atheists would discuss when they get together, like we discuss overthrowing the government or whatever. And I tell them, football, Netflix, just any kind of conversation topic, because there's one thing that we all agree on, that the gods don't exist. So why talk about that?
Right.
Now, we do talk about religions a lot, because a lot of atheists come from different religions. And one point I'd like to make is that I'd say 90 to 95% of the people in the Atheist Society of Knoxville are post-religious. These are people who have gone through religions and come out the other side, got the t-shirt, been there, done that, over. We're not a good group to proselytize to, but people seem to always want to proselytize to us because we don't have a religion. So we like up for grabs.
Might be the best group to proselytize to, because we have the best shutdowns.
Yeah, but like we were saying earlier,
knocking our door at your own risk.
Yeah. Like we were talking about earlier, that your Buddhist friend was an atheist. Well, also Confucius are atheists, Taoists are, and Shintoists, and Jainists are atheists. There are philosophical religions out there that, they have their own religion per se, but it's really philosophical.
Yeah, that's what it is. I was going to start my own religious organization called Jehovah's Atheists, and we were going to go door to door and talk about nothing.
Have you heard of a social Jehovah's Witness?
Yeah.
Hey guys, that's the end of the show. I will throw out this. Please feel free to leave a comment. If you share some love, we'll go over on next week's show. This is Let's Chat on YouTube. If you're watching it on my channel, Eric, we're gonna play your bad religion stuff on this break if we got time, and if not, we're definitely doing it. I will make time to make sure that we can get to that.
Nice.
But this guy is a musician extraordinaire. You play the drums exceptionally well. You play the bass exceptionally well. You're all over guitar. You can sing. This guy can do it. So I highly recommend you check out his stuff. Doubtfire, is there anything that you would recommend that we check out next week?
Yeah, check out the Nocebo stuff if you're
nice.
interested in learning about that. That's cool.
Absolutely.
That's cool
That'll
stuff.
be the first thing on my list. Yeah. Larry, it's all you.
Well, this has been the Digital Freethought Radio Hour and WOZO Radio. Be sure to visit the digitalfreethought.com blog site for radio shows, atheist songs, and many articles on the subject of atheism. My book is called Atheism, What's It All About? It's available on Amazon. Thank you, Wombat. And if you're having trouble with leaving religious beliefs behind, and a lot of people do experience pain, trouble, separation, anxiety, look up recoveringfromreligion.org and go there. They have help for you. If you have questions for the show, you can send them to Ask an Atheist at knoxvilleatheist.org, and we'll try to answer them on future shows. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe to be notified when new episodes are posted. Remember, everybody is going to somebody else's hell. The time to worry about it is when they prove that heavens and hells and souls are real. Until then, don't sweat it. Enjoy your life. And don't fear the wombat. Say goodbye, everybody.
All right.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Hey.
Bye.